is a meeting of the Consolidated Commission on Utilities. It's a work session for GWA. Present for this meeting are myself, Commissioner Lim Chalco, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Martinez. And Mr. Miguel Bordalio, you're the General Manager, you're up. We have resolutions that we're
Yes,
going to work on.
thank you,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. We have, there's 4 listed on the agenda, but we are tabling Resolution 30, so we only have 3 for your consideration at this month's meeting. So we can start with Resolution 25, FY 2024, and this is seeking approval for a design service contract for the infrastructure, water and wastewater infrastructure project at Gilbreeze subdivision.
Okay.
As the board may recall, the regional EPA regional administrator for Region 9 visited and toured the island, especially for underserved communities, and took an interest in the Gilbreeze subdivision and helping those residents. And EPA has worked rather hard to try and secure the use of their grant funding in order to address this issue, long-standing issue for this community. So we are able to use US EPA grant funds, which is what is going to be funding this proposed design project. And we put out an RFP. There were 25 interested parties, only 4 submitted proposals, and after the evaluation process, Duenas Camacho and Associates was found to be the most qualified. They submitted an initial fee, which our engineering team negotiated with them, reducing the initial fee by 8%, I believe. What the project seeks to do is to install design acceptable water and wastewater infrastructure for the Gilbreeze subdivision. On the wastewater side, the initial concept was a series of gravity lines and a pump station, and lots of off-site work to connect to the nearest sewer. EPA, I believe, has discussed the potential concepts with our engineering team, and the use of a package plant may also be considered. So we haven't settled on the final wastewater design and how it's going to be handled, but there will be a solution for the subdivision, whether it's pumping it into our central system or putting in a small package plant there. It depends on the economics. So we'll get to that analysis as part of the engineering design. But this design contract was negotiated to $3.396 million, as I mentioned, down 8% from the initial fee. We're seeking that amount plus a contingency of $339,000 for a total authorized amount with this resolution at $3.73 million. We anticipate starting this project and completing it as soon as possible, and completing it by June, so that we can begin construction procurement thereafter. And as I mentioned, the source of the funds for this project is US EPA grant funds.
Okay. Commissioner Sanchez.
So this is the design piece of it,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
You
sir.
have without holding you to it, a guesstimate what the actual final solution will be?
The initial estimates for construction, I believe, were in the $24 million range for the entire package. Is that correct? Yeah.
Okay, so, I think you're all familiar with the history of this, right? So
Yeah.
the developer ripped off these landowners.
This is a
took
developer who should not
This
have
is
been
Francis
developed.
Gill, right? Took their money. They sued him. I think he declared bankruptcy, bankrupt the company, and he just left them hanging, and they've been stuck. And our hesitation all these years was using ratepayer money to bail out a developer, right? Which is the precedent none of us want to set. Happy to hear that Miguel and US EPA are willing to do the study. But the reason I asked the bigger question is, if this turns into a $25 million requirement, we're basically asking, we may be forced, or who knows how it's going to evolve, but my fear is that we may be forced to ask our ratepayers to put $25 million in for something that a developer should have put in. But it's sort of, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? I mean, they're up there, they're over the aquifer. It's been a mess for a long time, but I just had nothing else, just wanted to state that on the record, that we have been put in an those citizens have been put in a terrible situation, and now our ratepayers may be put in a situation where we have to help them. But it's gonna cost our ratepayers, it could cost our ratepayers close to $30 million to address something that needs to get addressed, only because a developer failed to do their job.
Okay.
Just
You
to
were about to say
clarify,
something. Go ahead.
US EPA has indicated that they will fund the construction.
Oh,
So, and the $24 million estimate was based on a concept that connected to our system.
Perfect.
So the alternatives that are being presented in light of the magnitude of the construction cost and the market conditions with the military buildup, the alternatives that I mentioned were to try and make sure that we could construct it only using EPA funds.
Perfect.
With the most economically feasible options. So even though a package plant wasn't necessarily included in the
concept.
original concept, that might be, we might be able to do that within the construction budget. We might be able to use individual treatment systems. We're still looking at that. With regard to the statement, they are over the northern part of Guam, but they are, to my understanding, outside the groundwater management protection zone. I think that's one of the things we're going to confirm when we do the design work, but the use of individual treatment systems might be allowed based on their location. So we're looking at all, the point is we're looking at all options to try and make sure that it doesn't cost the ratepayer anything and that we're able to take advantage of the grant funding made available to us through the BIL.
No, perfect, thank you, Miguel. Well, you've done a great job, and the fact that EPA is willing to step in and help with this, we can resolve
I
this.
have one thought though. I like the fact, the only concern I have is, when you put a package unit in, there are other operational costs that come along with that, that are not there if you hook up into the existing system. The other benefit is if you hook up to the existing system, you provide a sewer line that can be expanded on in that area. But, so I would ask that as you go through this process, you also ask them to verify, one goes one way, what's the operational cost going to be like? Because the operational cost is going to be borne by the ratepayers. Great, they're going to give us the money to build it.
CapEx.
But then, you need O&M costs. That's all. You don't have to answer me now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, put that in to the pile.
And the other opportunity cost is US EPA might have given Miguel $25 million to do other things he wants to do,
Yeah.
but we're gonna have to divert some of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
But this
No, no.
this has to get
This has to get done.
Yeah.
No, I think everybody is in unison. This has to get done. I'm just saying that as we go
Good job.
forward, there's going to be some operational costs.
Yeah.
And, that's going to be borne by everybody. Supposedly the people themselves who are now hooked up. So
Correct.
that's great. You have the consumers who are now hooked up, getting water, getting their sewer taken care of by us. So they're going to pay a fee. Yes, that's all in there. I'm just saying, my sensitivity is, rather than a package unit, maybe we do it the other way. But that's something I just say, put it in the pile. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
The only thing I was going to ask was whether there was EPA grants for the funding of the construction, so Miguel answered that
Okay.
already.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Next.
Moving on, the next resolution is number 31, FY 2024, and this is seeking a budget amendment for our fiscal year 2024 budget, specifically to address a very recent and significant increase in the cost of Navy water, which we still are required to purchase as part of our operations. So I think over the last couple quarters, the rates that we are being charged by the Navy have somewhat close to doubled. More than doubled. And so, starting with October 1st. So we had budgeted $6 million for the year to cover Navy water purchases, which is in line with our prior year's costs. But with these increases, we're now projecting that we will need $15.6 million before the year is out. So
An
we are,
increase of $9 million, roughly?
yeah, and part of it is cost increases in the unit price from the Navy. Part of it probably the smaller part of it is GWA's increased need for Navy water in certain instances.
Okay.
So those things combined will, we believe, push us to about 15.6 million by the end of the year. So we're seeking an additional 5 million in authorized expenses for the fiscal year 2024 budget.
This current year.
Yeah, so that would increase what you previously approved at 79.7 million to 84.7 million, excluding capitalized labor and non-cash depreciation expenses. So this will, this amendment would cover what we anticipate to be our expenses up through the end of the fiscal year on September 30th. We, in order to fund this increase, we have seen some revenue increases across all of the rate classes at 1.7 million, 2.4 million in investment income, and 2.1 million that we can reallocate from the approved budget. So all of this will help us to meet the additional expense that we're seeking to cover. And we also have in the kind of the back pocket the 950 in our rate stabilization fund. All of that, added all of that together, including our revenues, we anticipate we will see 132.8 million, which is, I think, 4 million more than what you had previously approved. So
Okay.
we're trying to balance it all out and still meet debt service coverage. So, but we need this authorization in order to be able to
Yeah.
make
Okay.
these expenses.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Mr. Chairman, so if and Miguel, correct me if I'm wrong, so I'm reading the whereas on the top of the second page. So the Navy wants to increase their charges for water 45% in January already, and another 70% increase 4 months later. That's just the simple math, that's almost 120% increase in a 4-month period. That's gonna cost our ratepayers almost $10 million more per year, I guess, this year, for the water we purchase from the military. How does the Navy justify a 120% rate increase in 4 months?
We have been told that the reasons for the increase have been primarily because of the renewed base operating contract and those costs going up. And so in their current, you may recall previously, we've mentioned that the Navy used to have a working capital fund which allowed them to kind of smooth out some of these increases year over year in the cost of producing their utilities, water included. And that financial structure for the Navy here on Guam went away a couple years ago. So we've been under the current arrangement, which is we prepay 3 months in advance, and then they adjust to cover their operational expenses, and then do a true up, and then they adjust the rates. They have the ability to adjust the rates every 3 months. And that's the manner in which we've been doing business with the Navy for the water utilities.
So, my hope and my expectation, because you're very good, what will it cost us to get off of Navy water? Big picture, longer term, it's not gonna happen overnight, but I mean, in a perfect world, we wouldn't be buying water from someone that is trying to raise, I mean, I'm trying to think, how long did we're raising rates 60% over 5 years. They're raising rates 120% over 5 months. $10 million. My expectation is if we handed you $10 million a year over some period of time, you would engineer a solution that would allow us to get off of Navy water, if it's gonna be this expensive, right? What do you have a feel yet? And if not today, by Tuesday or in the coming meetings, what's it gonna take in terms of capital expenditures to get off of Navy water? Or are we forced into this kind of hostage negotiations over water?
Well, let's be clear, there's no negotiations. We don't get a
that's
say
the
in
first
this.
thing. Exactly.
They just
Okay.
raise the price and we
Okay.
are stuck with paying it. The option we have is to reduce our consumption. We can make operational adjustments, which we are currently trying to do. We have some challenges in doing that for areas that are served primarily by Navy water. the central water system, as you know, Agate Santa Rita uses water purchased from the Fenno Water Treatment Plant, also uses water that we produce at the Santa Rita Springs, and we have the capability to send water over Cross Island Road into the central system. And that water right now is mostly northern GWA well water. We have several projects in the hopper, and this has all been the topic of much discussion with your friend, Mr. Madden at Georgetown, regarding this increase in cost and what we can do to offset it by bringing in more of our own water. So the Brigade Booster Pump Station at Route 4 and Route 17, we have that designed. That project, once it's completed, would allow us to the increased capacity to send water both from the northern wells and from the UGM, the southern system. There's an interconnection there, and the work in this project would upgrade both of the valving and the piping and the pump station to allow us to draw more water from UGM and push it over the hill to the central water system. We also have the Santa Rita Springs Rehabilitation and Expansion Project. In conjunction with WERI, we have done a study that shows that we can increase the capacity of the Santa Rita Springs by modifying the catchment wall. So that project design is going to be undertaken shortly, and then once that's done, then we can proceed with the construction. It's still a few years out. I know we've also done studies under prior CCU initiatives to look at looping the water system from Umatic all the way to Agate across the southern mountain range. We had one of our engineering consultants do a feasibility study for that, so we do have numbers that are dated. We will update those numbers, and I'll get you that as a potential, also a potential method in which we can reduce our reliance on Navy water. I think we have some projects that are more economically feasible already in process. We plan to expedite those. The other thing we plan to do is, if we cut our water losses down and do pipe replacements in these critical areas, then that also reduces the amount of water we will need to purchase. So our plan is to do that in the central system, do it in the southern system so it makes more of the UGM water available for us, and then get the Brigade pump station work completed so we have multiple, more sources of excess GWA water that we can push into the central system to reduce our reliance on Navy water.
So as usual, you've already started to evaluate, other ways. This is 10 million a year for the next 5 years. Does it affect our 5-year rate plan that we just submitted to the PUC?
Yes, it does.
Do we know how much of a rate increase is caused by this $10 million a year increase? Is it something you could look at again next week just to get a feel for it?
We can give you a number. We've also discussed the various options that would be available to us from a rate-making standpoint on how to address these costs, and we can brief you more on that next week as well.
Okay. Because I would like to ask you to look at another alternative. How does the Navy pay us for sewer services? Right, they use Northern, right?
Yes.
And Camp Blas is now using Northern, great. And they pay us under a contract. And when we do our rates with them for wastewater services, how is that quote negotiated?
In the last 5-year rate case, they were a party to the rate case, and they entered a position, which did come into the actual adjudication of the case, and ultimately they requested that they not be charged more than any other government entity, which we honored in the final rate setting.
So they get to see how we set our rates. We do cost of service. You run to the PUC. There's a process. We have no access to any process for how they set their rates to us. Am I correct?
I believe that they send us notifications, they communicate what they're going to do, but I don't think they ask for any feedback.
Correct. So we have no idea about their cost structure, but we run a pretty large water and wastewater system. We have a good feel for our cost structure, and I've never heard you or any of your predecessors walk in and say, I want a 170% rate increase or 120% rate increase over the next 4 months, right? And that I would I'd like to do a couple things. I'd like to suggest perhaps the chair and you meet with the admiral, and perhaps our vice chair to meet with them and say, what is this? This is 120% rate increase in 4 months. The other thing I'd like you, let me finish. The other thing I'd like you to look at for next Tuesday, can we raise our charge for the wastewater services to the Navy by this $10 million a year? And so that, we're not allowed to participate in their process, they're allowed to participate in our process, and then they hit us for $10 million and we have no say. So what I'd like to analyze is, can we increase the wastewater charge to the military by this amount, treat it as a special separate rate, and every time they raise water rates at FENA without any justification, that surcharge goes up. What would the surcharge be? If you can look at it by next Tuesday, your best guess. I know in 5 days it's tough to do the kind of analysis you're very good at, but I want to look at for next Tuesday. Can you report back on the possibility of feasibility of going to the PUC and creating a special rate and saying, look, we have no idea why they're charging us $10 million more a year, but because they are, we're going to charge them $10 million more a year. If they're not going to justify their water rate increase to us, then why do we have to justify their wastewater? All we're doing is passing on a cost. But to the ratepayers of Guam, we have to stand up to the military. This is unacceptable. 120, whatever the math is, increase in 4 months, unannounced, take it or leave. Take it? That's not partnership. That's unacceptable. We would never approve something like this. And so could you look at that for next Tuesday? What is the rate impact of this increase? How much more do rates have to go? Mr. Chair, would you consider sitting with Miguel and Francis about the possibility of just meeting with the admiral? We've done it before. We did it the last time this happened. And talk about this. And let's explore that if they can just unilaterally pass on these magnitudes of cost to us, then we want the same ability to unilaterally pass on costs for the services they procure from us to match any time they do this unjustified increase. I mean, we've been doing rate increases for 22 years, and we go through processes, and they participate, and it's full disclosure in front of everybody. Now, a major supplier running a much smaller system than us wants 170 increase. I just don't get it.
Good. So, but Miguel, have we looked at the actual rate, the new rate with this increase, and how it compares across the industry? Is it significantly, outside the range?
I mean, their unit cost for water?
Yeah. Because we're saying, wow, this is a huge increase, but what is it relative to municipalities or water systems across? Is it in line? I mean, the Navy is notorious for holding off on some things, right? These costs, and then hitting us with a big increase.
No, I would say that I don't consider the rate as it is right now. So listed on that second whereas paragraph is at $24.07 per kgal.
Yep.
In our recent comparisons for our water rates with utilities similar to us in the islands, this is far in excess of even those rates.
Okay.
So I don't think you could say this is within kind of industry standards, but then
It's high.
the military is not necessarily
Follow industry standards.
following industry standards. I think they have a kind of a cost recovery model, and within the year that the costs are incurred, and that's kind of what we're doing.
Go ahead.
I like the dialogue. Commissioner Sanchez, I agree we need to meet with the white president, as they call him. But I will suggest that we contact our congressman and inform him of what's going on and see if he can add language to be contained within the NDAA that moving forward, any rate increase from the military has to be paid for by the military in their own budget. I mean,
How much water does Camp Ross consume? And wastewater?
So that's not fully operational yet,
Still.
but we do have estimates of what they projected to give us as part of the EIS. I just don't have the figure in front of me right now, but we can get that by Tuesday.
Remember, all the pumps are inside the fence.
Well, that's why I was thinking the only thing we do charge them is for wastewater services, is essential. So, since they have not justified any rate increase for water services, I don't know why we have to justify any increase for wastewater services. We'll have to go to the PUC for this, but at the end of the day, I don't know why Tan Maria has to pay.
Maria doesn't know.
She's about to, well,
about
but
to know,
she's about to, she'll know if the, soon, well, it's public record now, it's on the record, Miguel has done his job. But our duty is to look, to balance the interests of our ratepayers and our authority to provide clean, safe drinking water. And now, one supplier is asking us for a 120% rate increase in 4 months. We've been in the rate increase business for 22 years.
Okay, we got it.
So, I want to say something, and
just
then
wanna
I want to say something.
Point out Commissioner Sanchez's statement that no GM has ever come before the commission and seeking that magnitude of rate increase. I would hate just to be the first one to do it, but if Cortec is awarded a judgment in that case, I will be coming to you for more than that magnitude of an increase just to pay Cortec.
You're gonna win that case. So anyway,
Okay.
I don't care. We'll
Okay,
see about
so
that. This
I-
is real, this is imminent, and you're asking.
Mr. Hall, if you want it, again, the wastewater.
Okay.
No,
I just want one comment. This has happened to us before in the past, okay? And
This large of an increase,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
I don't know if it's this large, but it's significant.
significant, but you know, here's the thing. And I didn't save the newspaper clipping. I actually talked to, I can't remember his name, he's a captain down in Nashville. And he told me, he says, Joey, look, you guys do it differently. When we want to upgrade a facility or when we pick up a contract, whatever, we just pay it. We don't borrow money, 30-year money, to put in 30-year asset. You know, we just pay it, and we pay it out. We're the United States military. We write a check, and then we try and cover it in our budget, and you know, try and balance our budget that way. And I told him, I said, yeah, but see, that's why we've been trying to push the concept of one Guam. Have them turn over these now, and I'll be very frank with you. My concept was, we don't need to own Fina Lake. We don't even need to own the Fina treatment plant. Much the same way as we're dealing with the Maui well, the Tumon Maui well.
Yes, sir.
We just want operational control so that we can put money into the plant that we need to do. So they're not hit with a contract negotiation with some outside third party who says, this is what we want, and they say, fine, because we don't care, we're just gonna write you a check. And then everybody else in the command. Now, we're not the only ones being hit with the rate increase. I'm sure they're increasing the rates to all their commands. You know, I understand,
know.
that's theirs.
We have no idea what they're doing.
But that's what he told me. He increases his rates to all the commands and to us. So
That's consistent.
It's something that, you know, just for acknowledging that, you know, this is the way they operate. That's why we really need to, I think we need to get our congressional delegate to try and help us with the one Guam concept and get operational control of these assets, not ownership. You know, I know military is very sensitive about, you know, Phoenix on naval bag property. They've got sensitive things out there. I don't have a problem with that. They can run it, you know, they can keep everybody out. We just want operational control, as we have with Tuamotu Maui. And we put money into that, you know, and that's the way it should be. That's where I think I'd like to, and I agree with Commissioner Santos, the Vice Chairman, that if we could get our congressional delegate to kind of sit with us. And so, you know, he's out here campaigning, right? So
Yeah,
maybe
I'll
we
see him tonight.
Yeah, we mentioned to him that we'd like to sit down with him, okay? Okay, okay,
I'm sorry.
No, we're just gonna, Miguel, just add to Simon's request is with all this going into effect, 100-some% increase, how much would that be for Tan Maria's
Water bill.
billing when it comes
what
to
would it be?
We'll get to that.
Sure.
I'll
By
get you the
Tuesday.
information on Tuesday.
Yeah, okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, so I believe you've been negotiating as properly with Georgetown, but it's leading to a rate case before the PUC, right? And it's all part of a plan that we've all adopted, that over time, again, raise rates over time to provide you the funding you need to continue to upgrade and improve the system, right? And we have these 5-year rate plans, and we now have one that you're going through the process with the PUC, expecting their approval. My understanding is you may have reached a stipulation, and there's some rate adjustment proposed. Did that, first question is, for the rate adjustment that is currently being developed by you, Georgetown, for the PUC, did it include this $10 million operating increase?
So with the original March draft filing to the PUC, which complied with the ratepayer Bill of Rights, that draft filing did not include the increase. However, and neither did the June 4th official filing, they were essentially the same. But when we discussed the use of the short-term financing option that was recently authorized by public law, the tax-exempt commercial paper program, to decrease our cost of borrowing, as part of the adjudication of the rate case, the PUC's consultants, Georgetown, requested additional information on what an updated rate application model, financial model, would look like with the short-term financing. We took that opportunity to roll in the other changes to our expenses that had occurred since our initial filings. So the CCU's resolution on the pay migration to stem our losses with regards to personnel, those additional expenses were rolled in, so were the increase in Navy water expenses. So yes, it is now currently part of the discussion and part of the modeling that we have provided to the Public Utilities Commission's consultants on the next 5-year rate case.
But over the next 5 years, this is $50 million.
And it is incorporated into the rates.
And so are the rate increases that you brought to us initially that we just said proceed and then, you negotiate, is this $50 million in there?
As I mentioned, the original filings which you approved did not include it,
Okay.
but the updated ones that we have submitted to the PUC as part of the adjudication do currently include these
So
costs.
can you, next Tuesday, show us how much higher the rate increase has to now be because of this $10 million a year increase from Navy Water?
We'll give you the rate impact, yes.
Yeah, okay, and then, can we consider as a commission, and you, Miguel, consider that, first off, I totally agree with the chairman about taking over and all that, but that's gonna take time. This is effective now. They've already raised the rates. They had no process, no nothing. They sent Miguel a letter, say, give me $10 million a year. And now Miguel's trying to deal with it. And in the first year, it looks like, you've mitigated it. But you can't do this every year, right? This is gonna be an out-of-pocket cost to ratepayers over time, right? For something we have no idea how a small system like that can justify 160% rate increase in 5 years, and 120 in 4 months, right? So that's why I want you to take a look at what would we have to charge the Navy for wastewater services to cover this, right? What is the additional impact to Santa Maria, to ratepayers for this additional expense? So that, and then what's your thinking on dealing with it? Share it with us. You're getting some feedback from at least one commissioner that one strategy, Mr. Chair, is to consider, maybe you and Vice Chairman Santos and maybe go see the Admiral. I mean, on behalf of our ratepayers, we got to do something.
We'll do that.
Right? And Miguel will arm us all by Tuesday with the best he can with, all right, this is the impacts as far as he can tell, right? But it's $50 million a year that he's had to factor into the rate cases of the next 5 years. He wasn't telling us 4 months ago because he didn't know, or 5 months ago, that, hey, I need another $10 million a year because the Navy's doing this. So we know at the end of the day, if we do nothing, Santa Maria is going to get stuck with $10 million a year or more. And I think the other thing to start to talk with the Navy is they participate in our process. We have no clue how they do what they do, right? And I understand national defense and all that stuff, but at some point, as partners, right, it makes absolutely no sense that they can arbitrarily raise their rates for nothing we can do, and that makes no sense. But more importantly, I want to get that $10 million a year differential. I want to give it to Miguel because he will figure out a way to reduce our reliance, if not completely eliminate our need for Navy water. That's the opportunity for Miguel that this is costing.
That's already in his vision.
Right.
He's already started down
he's
that
being
road.
taken at $10 million away. He has the right ideas. He has no money to pay for it now,
Yeah.
unless we pass it on to Santa Maria.
Let me I know it's
think I'll answer myself. What happens if we tell them no?
That was the other
We
thing.
don't
No,
get
I
the
mean,
water.
Are they gonna cut off the water?
If we tell them no.
Just pay the old rate.
You don't get the water.
We figure out how to get the water to the central.
Let them cut it off. Let's see them do that.
No, but, you know,
No, I-
no, that's the reality.
Hang
You
on,
asked
hang
the
on.
question.
Miguel, just,
I'm sorry.
if we told them no, and we say, okay, plan B is to reroute water, okay? Is that something that's realistic for us, or?
At this point, no, it's not realistic. If we were to say that we weren't going to pay, then, you know, they have control of the master meters at the interconnections, and they could turn the valves.
Tell me where's the most affected, say Yanni Heights village, that's gonna say I'm not gonna have water.
So it would be a large part of Agate Santa Rita. It would be, we are currently also using Navy water sources in the PD area. So PD, if we don't have enough water coming in from that to serve those facilities, it has to be routed from the north down, right? And PD's at the end of the line. So there would be, there might be sufficient supply, but there would be pressure issues as well in the PD Agana area.
And when you say Agate Santa Rita, that means feeding Naval Station their own housing area, right?
No,
They'll feed
That's
themselves.
the-
and
that's
just-
what it is.
That's what I'm
We
saying,
don't-
right?
we don't service
They'll
those
bypass
specific-
all of Agate Santa Rita because
us.
they're gonna go into Naval Station and
They
make
have,
sure.
they have
they have
piping
water.
that allows them to do that.
Okay, so, yeah, I just wanted to see the picture that if we tell you no, then we just can't, I mean, fact of the matter is, we can't afford it today. Okay, we didn't ask Tamaria yet, or Tennessee, say, by the way, you need to go to the exchange to buy water. Okay, good luck. So the question is if we told you no and you have to reroute water, that's not a feasible thing today.
Yeah, I cannot do it immediately.
Done.
Okay, but
And my other suggestion is to consider, because you're running the place, right, where the policy board is, I would just keep paying the old rate and begin a discussion, however we feel collectively we should do that discussion, about what the heck is this? Really? You know, I mean, we run a bigger system than that, and we've never asked anybody for 170% in 4 months. I mean,
again,
that's
because they're
ridiculous.
different from us.
They're not that different. They drink water. They
No,
make
but-
water.
But,
We
but
make
the
water.
way they spend their money, Simon, is
They're the
different.
Department of
They
Defense.
write a check.
If they went to the
don't borrow
Congress,
money.
but if they went to the Congress and say, I want a 170% increase in my budget, the Congress would laugh them out of the room. And they are the biggest wallet in town. So why are they passing on, they still have an obligation to run efficient systems. And I don't know who's thinking it on their side, but for them to even propose this without, and just say, Miguel, here's the new invoice, that's why I think it takes, God bless the congressman, but I mean, at this point, running a Congress, he has a business decision to make now,
we know that.
right?
No,
We have to make
Yeah.
a business.
Well, again, we're not always involved, we're sharing at least, I'm glad my colleagues seem to agree that we think this is ridiculous. But I think a conversation needs to be had with
yes,
the manager
yes, we
of,
will do that.
which is the admiral.
We will do that.
Let me offer this, right, is not pay the increase, but begin to put the money away. And, I'm sorry, I haven't been in too many I should say I've been in one-way negotiations starting yesterday. So, except the partner that sits at top of Nimitz Hill has a bigger stick than we do. So, again,
All you can do is ask and point
yeah,
out, but
so
I think we
we're
have an
gonna do that.
obligation,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, we
it's not
got
like
it.
we don't know anything about water and wastewater systems.
No,
As
no,
Miguel has
we
just
do.
pointed out,
Yeah.
in my words, paraphrasing Miguel, was he didn't think that the rate that, you asked the right question, how does this compare to small systems running similar? And he said it was high. So we have the basis, we understand the business and the systems. And I can't see how anyone could ask any boss to justify, 170% increase in 4 months.
okay.
Okay,
But I would pay the old, your call, Miguel, I'd pay the old rate I wouldn't even put money aside, because that's money that he could use for other things. And then we'll figure out what it is, but you'll provide all that data, right? The additional increase required to pay this if it stands going forward, right?
Yeah, he has that already, I think.
Well, I think for Tuesday, he was gonna,
We'll
Yeah.
provide you all the available data that we have on Tuesday.
and then can you look into the idea of raising the charges for military wastewater services that we provide them to match this rate
Okay.
adjustment?
Well, he'll look into it. Okay? Okay,
I
so,
hope we look into it.
yeah. Next, you got
So
one more.
next resolution on the agenda is 32 FY 2024, and this is a similar budget measure in light of the fact that we will not likely receive a decision from the Public Utilities Commission until close to the end of September. We're seeking an advance first quarter fiscal year 2025 operating budget, and it's just a 3-month rollover from the already approved FY 2024 budget or the soon-to-be amended. So it's a 3-month rollover of the soon-to-be amended 2020.
Soon to be amended by this issue we just discussed?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good, this is all timely then. You'll have the numbers.
Just for the first quarter of 2025, and then once the PUC acts, we will come back to you with an updated budget for.
For the rest of the
25.
year.
Yes.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Okay,
Just
anything else?
by way of information.
Yes.
Will provide fund sources of the requested 1 quarter budget would provide 32.98 million of funding sources for operational expenses estimated at 21.3 million for the first 3 months. And this will allow us to meet the debt service coverage of 1.25.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Sanchez, no problem with Miguel's request. It's functional, but a different question. Is the stipulation between Georgetown and GWA, is that public record yet, or that's subject to acceptance by the PUC? It's not public record?
It's not public record.
Okay, never mind. Then that's the answer.
And it's
Okay.
not done. Okay,
They're obstinate.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Or the reason it's not public
Yeah.
record. Okay.
Anything else you want to add, Miguel?
Not on the resolution, sir. If you would like, we could go into the management report.
Can you give us the highlights? Go.
I need to leave for a 10 o'clock meeting.
Sure.
So if,
No problem.
I do know that we're going to go into
Executive session.
executive
Yeah,
session.
can we do that
Can we
first?
do that first, Miguel? Sure. I can at least
Yeah.
participate in that,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Move to
So,
recess, Mr. Chair.
Move to recess and to rise up and go into executive session. Second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Boy, this would have been,
In executive session, and how do we see our guest?
When he talks.
Oh, wait. Okay,
So real quick, let me just,
wait. Okay, there. Good.
Hafiday, Andrew, and Sophie, good morning. So commissioners, these are our
Question? Okay. We'll have, Miguel, could you give us your highlights?
Okay, Mr. Chair. Beginning with the operations update for water production in July, we had a total monthly production of 46.4 million gallons per day, 43.7 MGD coming from our deep wells, Ugam at 1.7, and Tuma Maui at just under 1. A total of 98 wells online, 1 on standby and 10 with grounded motors. We continue to have pretty much on a weekly basis 1 or 2 wells going out with grounded motors. So we continue to have that problem. I'm a little bit worried about our deep well motor replacement. So we do have another procurement, I think, that's out after the last one was canceled.
Are they failing at a higher rate, lower rate? And sort of kind of the expectation is this will continue for a while?
Higher than I think in prior years, and I think mostly based on the data that we're seeing back from the field, it has to do with voltage and phase imbalances in the distribution, electrical distribution system. So that continues to be an issue. For water distribution, we're still good at 95.5% operability. The tank levels have recovered a little bit for the northern system. We are still having low levels up north, primarily because of the increased demand we had. KEPCO pulling off a lot of water from our system in order to hydrostatically test their fuel tank.
Sure.
I think we filled up the first one, and that prevented us last month from keeping the levels where they should be. Hopefully, they're supposed to go from one tank to the other tank and not draw any new water, but
Okay.
they may, and we're still working out the billing on that. In the south, we have several tanks offline for repair, and so we're essentially pumping all the way from Malolo to Umatic, I think. So even the Pigua Mariso tank has been taken offline for assessment and repair. So continuing to make those repairs as needed to meet the court order deadline. On wastewater collections, not so good on the pumping station. We went down a bit to 81.7. We have 3 of our major pump stations, Fujita, Route 16, and again in Maine, that are operating with a number of pumps offline. Those are VFD controllers that burnt out, a couple of them since with the post-war electrical system issues we've been having. So we need to replace the VFDs. We have procurements in for those, and we're trying to expedite them right now. I think they're with budget. We continue to move forward with CCTV, but we are below our targets. Now that the consent decree has started ticking, we've been focusing our efforts on picking up the sections of the network that need to be completed within a certain amount of time from when the consent decree starts. That's one of our first milestones. So the guys have been focusing on that, and that is taking up most of their attention. On wastewater treatment, things have been holding steady. We disposed of 914,000 pounds of sludge at a cost of about $83,000 for the month of July. Nothing significant to report on asset management. Our performance is still okay. One item of note, at the Territorial Climate and Infrastructure Workshop, we were requested to present on asset management to the other territories. EPA requested a change in the format where we do some presentation on topics that could assist other utilities. So the presentation was well received, and we've gotten inquiries from the other territories on specific steps that we've taken and specific products that we've used in our asset management program, so it turned out to be fairly helpful to them. Court order summary, no major changes. We're still at 98% complete as we work to address the few remaining tanks. I think we did manage to break the building permit loose for Ugam that was stalled, so there's going to be some delay in getting the last tank at Ugam completed for the court order, so I'm hoping that that doesn't exceed the December 2025 deadline. A couple SSOs that were reported just this month but occurred in April and May. No SSOs for the month of July. This is significant in that now that the consent decree is in force, the SSOs carry those penalties, right? So we're very mindful of that. I'm just going to let the board know that I doubt seriously that we can have maintained 0 SSOs as we move through this process. It's just not going to happen, so we will get some and just do our best to minimize that and work with EPA enforcement to see if we can stave off any penalties from being assessed.
Is the penalty risk significant? I mean, I know you're going to do the best job you can, but I mean, are we talking millions of dollars?
No, I mean, it's by occurrence and then
There's a
per day,
formula.
and then the most significant ones are the ones that reach the waters of the U.S., right? So those are the ones that carry the highest penalties. But
What's considered the waters of the U.S.? Like
Rivers,
Mississippi?
lakes,
Like Long Beach?
yeah. no,
anything that
Oh, they're
hits a
claiming
river
ownership
or
of our
hits the
rivers?
beach.
Oh, anyway, SSOs cost us money.
Right, we're trying to
And you're
minimize.
trying not to do it, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
Leak repairs, we're still trying to keep things around less than 20 at the end of any given day. So those numbers are pretty much in line with past performance. A slight increase as the guys have gotten a little bit inundated in the past month. Anything, Chris, on accounts receivable?
On the accounts receivable, for the residential, we had a good run for about 7 months where we had improved collections at the residential level. Not incredibly large amounts, but nonetheless, it was still decreasing. This month was the first month that it's increased, so it increased by about 36,000 and 21 additional accounts. On the commercial side, this is the third straight month we've had increasing receivables. The amount went up by about $6,000 and 7 additional accounts.
I mean, on the residential side, just people slow to pay, I'm trying to think.
So all the COVID relief programs and other types of programs are starting to
off.
basically come offline, and so those customers are now forced with having to pay for them out of their own pockets.
Well, it's still better than the graph to the left of that, August 2024. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Okay. What else?
The CFO is not here. Gilda's here to answer any questions. If any of you have them on the financial indicators, I think the only thing significant to note is the increase in O&M expenses over the target of 6.5 million per month. We, since June, have been at the 7.2, 7.3 million dollars a month level. But Gilda and her team are doing their best to manage the expenses, so we still maintain coverage. Any significant issues you want to report?
Oh, it's the
Use the
Navy.
mic, please.
It's the Navy, so we have
Yeah,
discussed
that's a
that earlier.
slide, page 67 of 189, the graphic representation of Miguel and your headache.
The Navy water purchases?
Yeah, just keep paying them the old rate till we can resolve it. That's my recommendation, so you're running it. Mr. Chair, have fun visiting COM to have more, but do your best, that's all you can do.
That's all we can do.
That's all you can do. It's crazy.
That's the slide
That's
number
the
eight
other
is
one.
the Navy water purchases, which we had historical data. The cost is starting fiscal year 2021, which is at 10.83, increased a little by like 9 cents in 2022, and in January 23 it was 11.20, which is $1 increase, and it started to go down in September 23 at 9.87, and in December 2023 that's the start of the increase from 9.87 to 14.27, which is equivalent to 45%.
They don't change their rate monthly, right? This is depends on our what our draw is, right? Because it's per kgal. right? It's not like 1083 this month and 1090 the next month and 1120, right?
They do it quarterly.
Quarterly.
Is when they make
It
the
started
adjustments.
the first quarter of
On
2024.
a going forward basis, right?
Since
So-
they got off the working capital funding structure.
So the volume of purchases has gone up. What does that do to?
As I mentioned, there are, when we have operational issues, especially in the PD area. So if you recall, about I think, a month or so ago, well, even for example with Mawar, right, we picked up the use of Navy water when we were, because their plant was operational and we
Right.
lost well production, so we purchased more in 2023. In 2024, we tried to taper that back down, but in some areas, we had, most recently, for example, in the Route 8 intersection, there was a major break there, and we closed down, in order to isolate the break area and make the repairs, we closed down a valve that feeds from Tamuning down towards Agana. We repaired the break, and then in the process of trying to restore, the valve failed in a partially open, partially closed position. So it's limiting our ability to move water into the Agana area.
Still?
Still. So we tried to get that expedited. It's the replacement of the valve requires being in the middle of that intersection, which our guys cannot do. We need contractor assistance. But because of the extent of the work and the complexity and the traffic control requirements, the quotes that we got for addressing it with contractor assistance exceed the small purchase amount, and so we have to do a procurement, which is currently on the street right now.
Okay.
So once that valve is replaced, we'll be able to restore the full amount of water that we normally send down south. But in the meantime, we are pulling in Navy water from the PD area and back feeding into PD acid again.
So where on the timeline is that issue? Because like as early as, is that August of 2022?
Yeah, we were way down.
We were down in the 30,000 kgal area, and
100,000,
you know now we've over doubled that. So is there? Seems like a steady rise, as opposed to a, you know, a spike from that valve, and then you know.
Yeah, we have, you know, that
That's just one of the issues.
that 1 month
Yeah.
may not be an accurate marker. So yes, we've tried to reduce Navy water purchases, but on average, the amounts that we use per year have remained pretty consistent since about 2020. I think. So we decreased, and then that became the bottom sustainable level that we needed to continue to purchase. So I think the August 23 number you're referencing is kind of an anomaly. If you draw the average,
Oh, I see.
we, you know, we on an annual basis, we have been for the last two years. Pre-Mawar, we were where we should be. During Mawar, it went up slightly, and that has kind of continued because of the other operational issues we have.
So I think that's more the reason as you look forward, hopefully we can recover, you know, work with the Navy on this cost issue, because I look at that $10 million a year as something you can do to help, you know, reduce this overall growth of the water purchases, and eventually, in a perfect world, who knows when it'll happen, you know, that maybe we don't need them ever, or we take it over, or whatever, right? But
And the other side to that is reducing our lost water will give us more water.
less need to yeah. But I think
In
we're,
all areas,
yeah. But I think we're seeing our exposure
Yeah.
of our dependence on any Navy water purchases when they can unilaterally tell you to say, "Give me more money." Kind of a nice day, right? So,
You know, when you purchase the water from the Navy, is that a flat rate? No?
It's based on volume.
Oh,
It's per
volume.
well, there's the
giga.
volume, and then there's their rate, right? So as Commissioner Lim Chagall showed, our rate, our consumption has gone up for reasons that Miguel has talked about, and then it's compounded because now they're charging you more per kg,
Yeah.
right? So we're using more of their water, and they're charging us more for it, and it's costing in real dollars now. We're looking at like
But
$10
it's
million
not-
a year.
The rates are not reduced as you get more water. I mean,
No, No.
It stays steady
Stays.
regardless of how much.
And we,
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking. So it's just a flat rate, whether it's up or down, it doesn't matter.
Typically, once they set it, it's the same regardless of your volume of purchase, so you don't get a volume discount. Right, but for us, every 3 months, they're adjusting, so it doesn't stay steady for very long. And, you know, with respect to these recent increases, we asked why, they gave us the reason why, and then we said, what is the, you know, for the purposes of negotiating this, the expense in this, with the PUC's consultants, we asked if they, what they projections might be, would this number come down, so we know what to budget, and they said, it's likely not going to go down, so you should plan on it going up.
And it's just for the water piece. You know, our rate adjustments are for water and wastewater pieces, right? And we've never done this 120% in 4 months. And they get to see our rate cases, they participate, and they, you know, we never see any basis for their adjustment. So that's why we need to end the dependency, because we're relying on a vendor that we can't rely on.
Yeah. But the rate did go down in September 2023 to 987. Something happened.
But it's still, as Miguel has pointed out, it's still higher, in his opinion, from his knowledge, it's still higher than comparable systems by significantly higher.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that's the way the Navy does it. It depends on how much money they need. They just take it.
Yeah, that's rather than, I wanted to just point out, you know, the percentage increase over what the, you know, the per K-gallon production costs are across the board. I mean, because it could be low to start with, you know, to begin with, but Miguel said it's very high.
And you know, we understand cost increases in producing water. We're in that business too, and it's just, I mean,
They're trying to recover everything right away.
or have us subsidize their water, or whatever their reason is. I can't see a rationale that justifies, they should have then raised rates sooner and graduated it like we do, but to just walk in and say, Miguel, hand me $10 million more a year, have a nice day. I mean,
Anyway. Okay, what else? That's it?
Unless you have other questions for finance, I think.
No,
we can send it to you.
Sure, go ahead.
We can send it to you.
We do our own procurement here, right? We don't, whatever
Oh,
your
thank God,
procurement
yes.
law, or we do, we just purchase it here.
Both companies.
We do our own procurement, we do follow the procurement law.
Yes, I understand, but you don't have to go down to
No, we
anybody
don't go
else.
to the legislature anymore.
No, we don't go to GSA, we don't.
Yeah, we don't do that.
They can't fix my grandfather's school, they can't fix a hospital. We put $2 billion in the ground, power and water, because we know how to procure.
Okay. If there are nothing else, then motion to adjourn?
Move to adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Did
say
we do the
by
wrap?
saying
Oh, we're gonna do that
aye.
Tuesday.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Good job, Miguel, thank you, good luck. Do your best, Mr. Chair. We'll call